Hi, quick reminder. The opinions and views expressed by my guests in this episode don't necessarily reflect mine or those of the show. Not every episode, but some episodes this season we talk about very deep, serious subjects. So if at any point you need to take a pause from listening or watching, please do so. Your mental well-being is far more important to me than any listener metrics, and the show will always be here when you're ready to come back. All right? Let's go. Hi, I'm Adam Jennings, and this is Awaiting Approval, a podcast about the messy human side of creative leadership. Today I'm joined by Emily Courts, freelance web and visual identity designer, for a relaxed two-way conversation about her journey, the lessons she's learned, what it takes to lead with creativity and honesty. Emily, hi, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Great to have this chat. I'm looking forward to it. For those people listening and watching to get to know you a little bit better, if we were meeting in person today to record this, where would you suggest we meet and what would you order to drink?
What would I order to drink? Cafe. It's got to be a matcha latte. Probably strawberry. I'm one of the matcha guzzling millennials. That's ruining the matcha industry for everybody, I guess. I don't tolerate coffee well, so this is my life now.
In that case, I will raise a strawberry matcha, a metaphorical one, to cheer you on for this recording. And in the same token, is there something on your desk or nearby that you are happy to talk about that gives a little insight into you or how you work?
Oh my God, this is an interesting question. I'm holding a mug for people who are only listening that says my favorite employee gave me this mug, which I find hilarious. Nobody else laughs about because I am my one and only employee and I bought it for myself and I keep my pens and markers in it. Captures a little bit of the rebellious spirit I have about working life, working for oneself, solo business, how joyful and free of an experience it has been for me.
Mm. Was that kind of solo entrepreneurial spirit always there for you? Was this always on the cards, or was it something you sort of discovered?
So the signs were there when I was a kid. I was always like, oh, I'm going to, have this dog walking business. I'm going to make jewelry and sell it. I kind of had this thirst for these things. And then as I got older, I was really into watching shows like The Dragon's Den or Shark Tank, if you're American, which neither of us are. But there were signs. There were signs that I was interested in and had a thirst for learning about business and building something of my own. But then once I actually got into the working world when I was a teenager, the prescriptive nature of it was not good for me. And in my years, I had 26 jobs before I started working full time for myself, which if you do the math, I'm 35 now and I've been working solo for like 5-ish years. So that's really extraordinary turnover. I was catastrophically failing at career path after career path. And because of that, I came with the belief that if I can't thrive in this environment when somebody's set everything up for me, there was no part of me that was so audacious as to think that I could truly do something on my own when it really came down to it. So I kind of ended up going solo, started a little bit by accident and very quickly realized, oh, there's something here. But my self-esteem, especially professionally, was beat down by regular jobs so much that I had kind of put it out of question for myself.
Mm. I'm sorry that you had to go through all of that to find this, but I'm glad that you found this route. I had a very similar thing for me. And I'm not officially diagnosed, but when you look at a checklist for ADHD, I'm like a big marker on every single one of them. So, that then discovering that later on in life made me realize, okay, for me, I get it. That's why the 9 to 5 in the office with the fluorescent lights and everybody nattering away in the background, that didn't quite work for me. But also that drive of, I want to go faster. I want to move faster than this machine is moving. And the only way I feel like I can do that is making my own machine, right?
Yeah. And to that, to relate to that, the jobs that I thrived in the most, retrospectively, were the ones that had some creative element. I held down one job in my early 20s for 3 years, and for a long time, that was the longest I'd ever held down a job. It was a creative job. I was a studio photographer. Some kind of creative element, but then to your point, roles where I had authority and I could control the pace and how we were playing the game and how fast we were moving were really places where I thrived. When I did not have authority, when I was not in a leadership position, I tended to fall to pieces a little bit more.
How do you? I'd be interested to know. Like, I fully resonate with that. Right? Like, it's not, and I feel that it's the same for you. It's not. It's not a. It's not necessarily anti-authority. It's just this is not going fast enough, or the direction that I truly believe it should go in, and I just want to pick the reins up and get on with it and do good stuff and get good stuff out into the world. Um, but obviously, there's an element when you're working for yourself and you have your clients. There's an element of handling that sort of power, not power struggle, but swap of like control of. You can explain some things to some clients as eloquently as you can with as much data as you can, but if they don't want to do it, so how do you kind of balance that those kind of tensional attention conflicts conversations, losing the ability to speak?
You mean when there's a power struggle or someone's not taking my advice, or are we talking more like who takes the wheel of a project?
What I would love to know is advice that you have for those in a situation where they know that the creative route they are putting forward to a client is the winning route, that the client is adamant that it should go in another way. What have you found to be the best way to handle that situation?
I think it's one of the most difficult things about creative work is sometimes you have to watch a client make a decision that you think is a bad decision. And sometimes, especially as a designer, you have to hand off a project and then watch them kind of like, whether it's a visual identity or website, watch them kind of degrade it because of the changes they make or whatever. And that is a place where I think you have to like hold your hands up and what will be will be. Make sure you keep copies of your original work if you're a designer. I was a writer before this, and that was still true. I always wanted in a final draft as I handed it to them in my hands. But it is also important from the beginning of the relationship to establish the expectation that you are leading the project. And that starts at the discovery call. And that is, when you show up at a discovery call and act like you're interviewing them instead of you're showing up to a job interview, it establishes you as a consultant and not a pixel pusher. And this is incredibly important. And this is what makes people respect your POV. It's also building up the practice of being able to articulate why you've made decisions, making sure that you're doing that throughout the course of specifically, especially a design project, but any creative project you do, and being willing to push back gently. But at the end of the day, to circle back to the beginning of this response, sometimes you have to put your hands up and let them make a decision that isn't your favorite. And that is one of the most excruciating parts of this kind of work.
Yes. Do you go back and look at old projects, like maybe 18 months, 2 years down the line, where the client hasn't come back? Do you go back and look, a bit like sort of stalking an ex on social? Do you kind of go back and look and see what they've done with the work?
Sometimes, for sure. And I'll revisit my old work, honestly, as much as less so like breathing down their neck digitally, but just seeing like, how do I feel about this? What do I like about it? What could I have improved upon? Like, these are always the questions I'm asking myself, especially as a relatively new designer. And yeah, I do look back, and sometimes I notice something that looks like a mistake, and I'll let the client know, hey, something looks wonky on your website. No worries if that was an intentional change, but I just wanted to let you know in case you need that change back. Things like that will happen. And then sometimes I'll look at work that either the client, because of the demographic that I work with, solopreneurs, freelancers, microagencies, sometimes the client has shut down their business occasionally, or sometimes it's visually fallen apart a little bit. And it can be tricky, but yeah, I do stalk previous clients for sure. Not them, their visual digital footprint, I'll say.
Right. Yeah. Just to
no
just
actual
to
stalking, to be clear.
Right. Look, all your clients are now like looking over the shoulder out their window just to make sure. You mentioned about this sort of journey to find that the path that you're now on. I'd love for you to take just a few minutes to to walk us through that. Not necessarily every step, but like the key milestones from when you started working to where you are now.
Okay, so when I started working for myself or started working?
I'd love to go like right back to when you started working if you're happy to.
Yeah. So I got my first job when I was in middle school. It was working in a basket shop. I did that seasonally, actually, for like 5 or 6 years, which was a long time for me to stick with something because it was creative and because I got to train people there. But I then proceeded to go on through my teens and early 20s, just a tear of working every single job you could possibly imagine. I, at one point, put my university degree on hold because I thought I was going to have a career as a travel consultant. I was gift basket person, floral arrangements, studio photographer. And there's a running joke in my family where it's like, name a job, Emily has had it. Like, we'll go into a bulk barn. You don't have them in the UK, I don't think, but they're like bulk snack stores. And, I'm with my brother-in-law and I'm like randomly like, oh, I used to work at one of these. And I'm like, is there anywhere you have not worked, woman? Like, I can't. So went through all of these jobs. And then in my mid 20s, shortly after I finished my degree, which has little to do with what I do now, is Spanish and Spanish language and Spanish and Latin American history and culture. So make the connection. It's an arts degree. And finished that, ran away to Korea to teach English because I lived in a small city in the east coast of Canada, and there was a real absence of opportunity. I had finished my degree. I didn't know where my career was going. And I was working at a call center and during the day in a pizza shop at night and like barely scraping by, effectively not even scraping by. And like a lot of 20 somethings, I heard that the money and jobs are in Korea. So I took my degree and I got certified to teach English, went there. Amazing decision, great year, really, really hard work. But during that time, I started writing for a digital media organization. It was actually in the plant-based space that a friend of mine had started, that he started as a YouTube channel that grew into something very, very large. And first I was working with them on a volunteer basis, but it very quickly turned into a paying position. And then from there, I was a professional writer as a permalancer, working for other people for several years. So like an employee, but ultimately no rights and nowhere near the money I'm able to make as a solopreneur. So did that for many, many years. And then during the pandemic, the last publication I was with went under for inferable reasons. And I started applying for full-time roles in content marketing. I did one interview with a really incredible woman who read a bunch of my work, much of which was personal. So she learned quite a lot about me. She wanted to hire me, but at the time she didn't feel that the environment she was working in would be the best thing for me. So she hired me in a freelance capacity for the first time. I did some kind of thought leadership, copy and content support with that team. And I realized from the first freelance project I did, hey, you know what? My creative skills can make a lot more money this way. Then I was a professional solo writer for several years. And while I was doing that, I was also going to design school part-time. And eventually, despite the fact that I was a senior writer and I was working with multi-billion-dollar brands and had like quite good earning efficiency in terms of time put in, money taken out, I had this call of design. I am a more natural writer at the end of the day. And I still think it's my biggest strength, but I felt the call of design so strongly and I wanted to use different parts of my brain and I wanted my workday to feel different. And in the end of 2024, I made the switch. So my front facing offer was design instead of writing officially, despite the fact that I'd been offering it as a service kind of out the back door for a while. At the end of 2024, and my business blew up since then. It was the best thing I could have done, despite the fact that I'm not serving clients who are at the same level in terms of I'm not serving enterprises that are billion-dollar valuations, this sort of thing. I'm earning more. I'm stimulated in a different way at work. And that is the whole story and the shortest version I can tell it of my career. And that's where I am now.
I love it. I love it. And it's like there's a lot to unpack there. I love that there is such a broad base for you now as a designer to draw upon.
Yeah.
How do you feel, or do you feel that all of those different experiences all of those places you worked, like saying with your brother-in-law, like, is there any place you haven't worked? Like all of those places, do you feel that they now filter into your design sensibilities and your craft as a designer?
Yeah. And they absolutely do. And they certainly did when I was a copywriter as well. The number of jobs I've had and the number of industries that I have at least a loose understanding of has been extremely helpful for me and has positioned me to work with a wide variety of different clients for sure. Um, so no regrets in that way at all.
When you think about all of the places that you have worked, is there a time that you would go back to yourself, the age that you were then, but knowing what you know now? And if there is, what would you say to yourself?
I mean, I've been asked questions like this before. In the shortest form, you can be way happier and make way more money if you just take the wheel of the situation. Stop begging other people to give you a job that you like and make one, would be my advice for myself, because um, it was just such a struggle. And I honestly, I look back to my early 20s and I had an incredibly dismal outlook on life in many ways that was largely fueled by my understanding of what a career was. I was like, we all just end up miserable for 40 hours of the week. And it's up to us to figure out how to like survive that. And it was dark. It was like looking down a dark, dark tunnel. And I didn't realize how um big the professional world could be and how many walls you're able to take down for yourself if you just take control of the situation by doing your own thing.
It's really powerful. What would you say to people listening to this or watching this that haven't yet seen the light at that tunnel? They are at the moment in that darkness or facing that darkness. What would you say to them for that specific point? Like, what would be the what would you be your advice on like the first step to take or the first thing to think about?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is like it's never too late to start over in a different direction. Like my switch from writing to design looked on paper so unhinged. Like, why are you doing this? You're such an established writer. Why would you ever do this? This is, and there's one part of my brain that was like, this could blow up my business. It did not. So if you really feel called to do something, maybe give it a crack. Um, it's never too late to pivot, and you'll never feel ready is another big one that has been really transformative for me. Like you have to, if you want to do something on your own, you have to start not knowing what you're doing. You can take every course and read every guide and watch every YouTube video, but you're not really going to know until you have in the field experience, until you get out there and you like manage your first freelance client relationship for yourself. That experience is invaluable, and you will only ever feel confident by putting the reps in. It's never too soon to start. And things can also come to fruition a lot faster than you might think.
Mm, that really resonates. I remember just before my son was born, my first child, my son was born. I was at Microsoft. Great job, leadership position, lots of opportunity to move sideways, upwards, what have you. But also the side clients that I had when I started at Microsoft and continued to have all above board, Microsoft knew, was growing. And I was at this point of they want me to move from the UK to Redmond. That's one option. But I've also picking up a whole bunch of clients in the entertainment space, which I loved with my company. And like, so what do I do? And I've got this child on the way. And I remember thinking, well, I have to reach like a certain amount of revenue in the business in order to leave Microsoft. Like there has to be this cutoff point, right? Which was completely arbitrary and I mean, sort of based on bills, but like generally speaking, a completely arbitrary, perfect moment. And after my son was born, I was a few months in and I was realizing I was leaving the house before he woke up and getting back before after he'd gone to bed. So I wouldn't see him. And that was the point where it was like, no, this is
Yeah.
this is wrong. This is not the right way to do this for me. It's fine for some people, that's okay, but it was not the right way to do it for me. And so it was a big lesson in, like you say, there's never the perfect moment. There's the right moment, but there's never the perfect moment.
And I think I'll add to that the fact that the thing we don't want can be the most powerful motivator of all for some people. Like for me, what lights a fire under my butt is like, I never want to go back to a normal job. I mean, never say never. Maybe my view will change and there will be a job that is just the perfect fit for me and I'll want that job one day. But I was very much motivated by like, I don't want a boss. I will not write another cover letter. I will not have the hours of my day calculated. I will not use another time tracker. I will not sell moments of my life. None of it anymore. And that was the like anti-motivator, if you will. The
I
thing I
get it
wanted to
completely.
avoid.
Yeah, for sure. And that can be a huge driver. And I love that you frame it positively as well. Like this is about claiming your time back, claiming your life back, claiming your path, your direction, right? As
Yeah.
opposed to running from something you don't want. It's running towards something you do want and taking the reins of it. That's really powerful. I love that. When you think about your practice now, your company now, like what's your perfect client? Who are the clients that you absolutely love to work with?
They are a busy solopreneur microagency owner. They are looking for a consultant. They want the project taken off their desk. They do not see themselves as the creative director. They see me kind of as that, the fractional creative director for them. I've worked with people who see me as a pixel pusher. They think I am somebody who knows how to use the tools and they are there to tell me what to do with them. That is the most frustrating client. The least frustrating client is incredibly busy. They want me to make something great for them. They want me to make it thoughtfully and strategically, and they want to be able to step in, step out of it, and for it to be 95% handled by somebody else. They are motivated by time, they respect my time, and they really respect me as a consultant. They are again, solopreneur, freelancer, microagency owners. So we have the value alignment. We kind of have the same fire lit under our butts, and we have a really strong understanding of each other because of that.
Mm. I love finding that common ground. There's a Years ago, I had a client for many, many years. They were a producer of TV and radio comedy programs. And one of the founders there, he was one of the very, very few clients in almost 30 years of doing this that I would be okay when he said, I'll know it when I see it, because there was an understanding between us. He knew comedy, he knew what was funny. I knew design. And we had a trust in each other, we had a respect in each other that I could produce a piece of artwork, let's say some branding for a show, and we would then together work through which photo of the talent or the cast should we use, and he would know which one was funny, and not me. He would know the funnier one. I would pick the obvious goofy face or what have you, and he'd be like, "No, no, no, this is way funnier because blah 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 blah." And so there was a really wonderful alignment of respect, mutual respect in each other's skill and expertise and ability. And it sounds like you're finding that with that, like you say, the fire under your butt to get out and make your thing work, and the same for your clients. Um, I can imagine that's like a really amazing sort of energy boost when you find a client like that.
It is, it is. And I love working with solos for this reason. Like I'm landing like some bigger names in the solopreneur space and I'm able to, put those people's faces on my website and that's great. But it doesn't necessarily have the same resume clout of some of the brands I was able to rattle off as a writer. But frankly, don't particularly care because the work that I do now is so rewarding. And that is something that I was losing a little bit as a writer with most of the writing projects I was working on. It was challenging. I got paid really well for it, but there's such a soul piece in it for me when I'm helping somebody build something that lets them have a successful career despite the fact that they have neurodivergence or chronic illness, something that lets them spend more time with their kids, something that
Mm,
allows them to travel the world while they're working, right? These things that people are so deeply invested. Like I'm never going to get that level of personal and emotional investment from my main point of contact at a multi-billion dollar enterprise.
mm,
It's just not, there's
mm.
nowhere near the same level of um, emotional intimacy, passion, investment that you get with the kinds of projects that I run now. And I like count my lucky stars every day with the people I get to work with, because additionally to our shared values we have around solopreneurship, because I lead with personal brand, we're usually personality and personal value matched as well. So it's just dream living in terms of my interpersonal relationships at work in so many different ways.
I would love that. And I love that you mentioned about the chronic illness, aspect as well. There are so many people that struggle with that and are not seen, or worse, seen as lazy somehow, or not go-getters, or when it's entirely, not the case. So I love that the work that you're doing enables those people who have those challenges to, like you say, just take it that extra bit off their plate so that they can focus on healing or spending time with their family. I really, really love that. It's a fantastic part of your mission. So hats off to you.
Well, it's personal investment for me. I kind of like skipped over this in my story, but during the time that the last publication I was at went under, and when just as the pandemic was starting, I was also going through oncology treatment and getting diagnosed with arthritis and saying goodbye to my uterus at 29, and all of these big things that rendered me, first of all, like kind of in mental ruins, and secondly, quite chronically ill. And my health has improved dramatically since then. And I credit that largely to the fact that or in part to the fact that I've been able to run my own career, my hours, make room for specialized medical appointments and all of these things that help me get better over time. And still, I'm able to adapt my life to my body and its needs. But in my early years as a solopreneur, I wasn't working that many hours, but my earning or making that much money, but my earning efficiency was invaluable to me, because when you can only work 2 hours a day, like you better be making money for those hours. And it was such a lifesaver for me. And the space it created in my life allowed me to it was part of what allowed me to build up my let's say fortitude again. And over time, I've become more and more capable of doing things like sitting in a desk chair for more than 2 hours at a time. And my life has transformed dramatically, and I credit my career in part to that. So when somebody comes to me with chronic illness, which happens often, or neurodivergence, which I also relate to, which happens often, I'm really personally invested in helping them find a new professional life that works better for them.
I, Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. First of all, thank you for sharing your story. I appreciate that. And thank you for being there for those who do have those chronic illnesses and do have those neurodivergent pathways. It's I've had this conversation so much over the last few days, over the last few years, but especially over the last few days. I just wish there was more love in the world. And by love, I mean just like humans seeing other humans, right? There's an amazing story of Ian McKellen. He comes from the north of the UK, north of England, and he says when he goes back home, he gets off a train, he gets into a cab, and the cab driver, a male, will say, "Where to, love?" And instantly he's back home, because that love is just that recognition of, I see you're another person, I see you're another
Yeah.
human, everything, anything that we can do that helps other people in their day, I think it's just wonderful. So I love that is an aspect of your mission, that it's helping you as well, and as well as your clients. So, once again, hats off to you.
Thank you. That brings up for me so many things. Everything you say makes me want to say 100 different things. But there was really in some of the positions that I had previously in my content creation career, when I was more functioning employee mechanism, stress mongering, acting like everything was life or death, weird emotional situations, poor boundaries, all of these different things. And part of my brand ethos, it's on my website, like lead with kindness, have fun. We're not saving lives here. We're floating on a rock. I care about my work, but nobody needs to get their knickers in a twist about it. Like none of us, we all need to stop thinking that we're actually putting out fires at our jobs unless we work in an ER. Or we're
Right.
firefighter, I guess, if we're going to be very literal about it. But I experience so much like people kind of emotionally terrorizing me about the urgency of things that at the end of the day weren't that urgent. And I think that most people perform better, feel better, enjoy their lives more under kindness. And also, there's so much crap in the world without anybody ever being shitty to each other. And I don't know why humans have to make life worse for each other on a grand scale, as we're seeing right now in a very real and disturbing way, or on a micro scale at our jobs.
Mm. Yeah, yes. There is now more than ever, we need love, and we need to see each other with kindness and lead with kindness. I often do a talk on human to human, a human to human leadership framework and what that means. And it's built around three core pillars, which are empathy, authenticity, and communication.
Yes.
So if you're empathetic, you understand your own energy and you understand the energy of others. You see those people as humans, just like you, with the same or similar dreams, goals, hopes, challenges. If you're authentic, then to the degree that is safe for you, you can talk about your goals, dreams, and challenges, allowing therefore then others to do the same thing. But setting those boundaries around that and making you still need to have structure to a team, and that's where the crystal clear communication comes in, right? So you have to have those three things, but none of that stops you from leading with kindness. None of it. And like 100%, the result is far better when the workforce is looked after, feels cared for, feels like they have ownership, feels like they have the ability to rest in between beats. Like, yes, there's going to be times when, okay, we're going to need to pull a little bit of extra time here to just get this thing over the deadline or what have you. But if most of the time it's not that, when that does happen, the team's recharged and ready to go and happy to do it, right? As opposed to that being the norm, which is what typically we think of in agency world.
100%. And also, that brings up to me like the expectations we have in a typical working environment, this like robotic procedure and the 40-hour work week. Like nobody's getting 40 hours of work done a week. It's not happening. Like if you look at statistically what somebody who has a regular job, does a 40-hour work week, they're getting like 2 to 4 hours of work done a day. So it feels very insane to me and like a unique kind of torture that we take people to this place and we make them sit in this chair and we make them like spin their wheels for half of their day, every day, 5 days a week, when, we see teams being more productive on things like 4-day work weeks, for example,
Mm.
and reduced hours. And one of the amazing things about being a solopreneur for me now is how motivating it is that like when I'm done what I need to do, I can get up and walk away from my desk for the rest of the day. And I'm
Yeah.
normally clocked out by 2 p.m. So 2, 3 p.m. Some days I'm checking emails or doing something between 8 and 11 at night. That happens, but it's not unusual for me to be done my workday in 5 hours and for that to happen early in the day. And I think we should all have the freedom to be able to do that if we are able to do that. Counting contribution by time is outrageous to me.
Like I am finding like a hundred alignment points here on everything that you're saying. I love it. I once read a book, and I tell this story often. I started to read a book that was about sort of managing your time. This was before I knew I was ADHD, so I didn't understand why I couldn't keep on top of things, like, and why I kept coming back to a piece of pen and a paper to write down my to-do list. And it started off in the first chapter said, is the A to D method. So get all of your tasks, put it all on a piece of paper, write them all down, then rank them A to D. A is without fail, you have to get that done today. It cannot wait. B is would be good to get done today, but you could also do it tomorrow. C is do it later in the week. And D is somebody else can do it for you. Then once you've
Delegate.
done that, you go through all the D's first. So you don't block anybody. You give them everything they need to get off, to go off and go and do the things that they're going to do. And then you do the A's, and then you go home. And that was the end of chapter one. And the last line of chapter one was something like, of course, we could extend this theory out, blah, blah, blah. I didn't need to read the rest of the book. Like, that works for me. I get all my A's done, then I finish for the day, right? Like, and like you saying, why would I sit here in a chair for 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, grinding wheels when I'm not there. I'm not there mentally. I'm not there physical energy wise. Like it's madness. It's absolute madness, especially with ADHD, where I might be able to do like 8 weeks worth of work in 30 minutes and then I'll do nothing for 3 days because I just can't get going. Like, I've realized that for me, when I'm in that mode of I can't get going, there is 0 point fighting it. There's zero
Yeah.
point sitting in the chair because I will just sit here and get more and more frustrated with myself and more stressed that I haven't done the thing. Whereas if I go for a walk or take the dog out or play with the cats or do some washing up or whatever it might be, sometimes suddenly that kickstarts the dopamine and then I can sit down and get on with stuff. So I get it completely. That tied to the desk, it's madness.
100p. And being able to leverage the times when our brains actually work well for us and when we're firing on all cylinders, and then not feeling, and I think this is something that we all unpack kind of forever because we've all been so brainwashed by regular jobs and the way that capitalism has structured itself conventionally in our society, not being tied up in shame about, some days I'll work for 3 hours or no hours and I don't have anything I need to do and I'll just go do something else. But part of me is still like, oh, well, you're supposed to put in 5 hours of deep work every day. This arbitrary rule I've made up for myself, and then we have our arbitrary rules regular jobs have, and they're so absurd. Like at the end of the game, so much of this should be about freedom. And ideally, we do work we love as well. So we get to enjoy that part of our life, but also freedom to enjoy every other part of our life. And then I think, especially for people who are neurodivergent or who might have extenuating circumstances for another reason, like the shame that comes up with sitting at a 40-hour work week job or having to wiggle your mouse while you're remote or whatever when you're not going to be productive. Full stop. It's just not a good time for you. And that shame is a burden that I think nobody needs to carry. If you're getting your work done, you're getting your work done. Doesn't matter if it happens in 5 hours or 1.
Exactly.
He's pretty quiet for a while there.
Okay, I think he stopped. I agree completely, and I really thank you for saying it. This is something that needs to be said and understood way more, especially at senior leadership level. We're all different. We all do things in a different way. We all need things in a different way. Creatives, one of the first things you need to do as a leader when you inherit a team or you're building a team is understand, for example, how each of your creatives need feedback. Some prefer it verbal, some prefer it written, some prefer little stamps, some just want to talk it through and kind of figure out all the layers and the texture of everything. Like we're all different, and so our needs from the workplace differ as well. And so the flexibility, and that's one of the few good things to come out of COVID, I think, was
reconsidering. Yeah. No, reconsidering what's required to do a job. It's like, I couldn't agree more with everything you're saying. And I like the restructuring that happened there. And, in the same vein, some people are not going to thrive working from home. Not that that's specifically the only thing that we're talking about. So to agree with what you're saying is everybody needs something different. And some people are never going to thrive as a solopreneur. They're just not. They want to be on a team and in a conventional job, and that's okay too. But we need options.
100%. But also, what I love about this is that's the beauty of life, right? We're all different. We all need different situations. We all need love. We all need support. We all need community and friendship. But that community and friendship and what have you comes from everybody coming at it from different angles.
Yeah.
Comes from everybody needing different things, right? Like that's survival at its most positive viewpoint. I grow carrots, but I need potatoes. You grow potatoes, so I'll swap a carrot for a potato. That's probably a really trite kind of way of explaining it, but that's how just like the picture that's coming up in my head. Like we all have different gifts, we all have different needs, and I believe there's a reason why it's like that, so that we can help each other. Right? We just have to listen and find out what each other needs. So again, I love that this is part of your mission. I love that you're seeing that positive impact happen for your clients. When you think about, you took us through the sort of bullet point career. When you think about that, is there a piece of work, of all the pieces of work that you've done, is there a piece of work that you would hold up as like, I'm really super proud of this?
I mean, can it be my own business? Like, this is my ultimate piece of work, is that I started my ultimate piece of work for me, despite the fact that we're so close to the things that we build for ourselves, and sometimes we can be the most critical of those things. My ultimate piece of work is the personal brand I've created for myself. It's the offers that I've reinvented time and again. It's the creative skills that I have developed. And it's also, I'm also very much positioned, because of all of the different things that I did, that if things go awry because of all of the technological change and everything we're having right now, I'm well positioned to step into a different kind of creative career, like being a creative director, because I have the writing and I have the design and I also have a lot of experience in video, right? So it's like the holistic picture of what I've built for myself. It's the evolving business and my personal brand, which when I started building all of this, I remember when I hit 1,000 followers on LinkedIn and I was like, what? Like my brain exploded. And when I first posted on LinkedIn, I hadn't been on social media for 4 years. It was unbelievably uncomfortable for me. And like each little drop in the bucket, I built that muscle up. I became comfortable being seen again. I built something that resonates with people. I built a reputation for myself, like maybe above all things, a reputation. That's my proudest piece of work, is the fact that I've built something from nothing,
I
truly
love it.
nothing.
I'm
And
high-fiving you through the screen. I love it.
all
But
for it.
yeah, there is something about building something for yourself that is so hard, but so satisfying, right?
So
He says on season 3 of the podcast. But it is really, really satisfying, and I think there is there's such a great moment and such a great feeling when you see that coming to fruition.
It's the
And
drops in the bucket. Because a million tiny little steps that felt like I was going nowhere, every cold pitch I sent, every post I did, and I posted for months into the abyss. Nobody cared what I was talking about. And I didn't feel like my content was good. I had to learn an entirely new platform, all of these different things. But it's the drop in the buckets factor, and being able to look back and be like, I stuck with it, even when there seemed to be very little reward short term, and being able to see the full bucket, as it were,
yeah.
at the end, and reflecting on all of the steps that it took to get there
Mm.
is huge.
Absolutely. And I think there is one thing that I think is really wonderful about that bucket analogy. It's, I think we all need to be more real, that there is never a quick fix. Like there's never a quick path. If someone is saying, "Hey, I've got this, come to my 20-minute webinar and you will be generating 1 million a quarter within," no, no, you won't.
I so agree with this, and these people who sell these quick fixes are quite absurd. I also, around this conversation, also like to say that I don't like to position what I've done as particularly hard, necessarily challenging in big and meaningful ways, particularly like the design work for my own business, those pieces. But actually building a business for myself, it's not even necessarily so much that it's hard, it's that it requires so much persistence. And what dictates so much of the difference between people who are very skilled at a creative something, who are successful as a solo, versus people who give up and go back to a full-time job, even though that's not really what they want, is the willingness to do repetitive and uncomfortable things.
Mm.
So whether that's posting on social media, reaching out to new people, going to network events, whatever your marketing channels are, or how you're actually building the business and not just the skill, that is like the big kind of make it or break it thing for me that a lot of people miss. And I like to remind people it wasn't that hard. it just required a ton of persistence and a lot of discomfort. But that the part that means like you have a viable business and you make money on your own versus I'm an amazing designer, but can't find a job for some reason as a solo is so often stuff that's not actually hard. It's just weird at first.
For sure. It's not like any company that anyone makes now is the first company that was ever made,
Nope.
right? Like there are roots, there are patterns, there are frameworks, and yeah, break them and disrupt them and create your own from them. But you are treading in a path that is well trodden. I guess the caveat is, and I know that you're with me on this. The caveat is when you also have additional challenges like a chronic illness or neurodivergence or what have you, then there is a whole other level of hard that is applied to life in general, let
Yes.
alone like setting a business up. But I know exactly what you mean. The steps themselves, the mechanical steps of building that business and growing it
Yeah.
is what it
Working
is.
on the business rather than in the business are normally like, yeah, more uncomfortable and difficult. And yes, couldn't agree more. So many compounding factors, including the fact that not everybody has the same number of hours in a day. So that's something to be very mindful of. But if you have limitations on your hours in a day, whether that's through chronic illness or caregiving or um, being a parent or whatever it happens to be for you, that might be a reason why solopreneurship can fit into things a little bit better. But it doesn't mean that it's not hard, and it doesn't mean that it's not more challenging for you than it is for somebody who is able-bodied, who doesn't have caregiving responsibilities, or, to pay attention to my own privilege, white, young. These things all play a role. First language English speaker. These things all made it ultimately easier for me than it might be for somebody else. But yes, can be hard, is varying levels of hard for different people. All I intend to say is that it's this like uncomfortable stuff that often dictates whether we can find our next project or not.
Mm. I couldn't agree more. And yes, certainly flag up white middle-aged guy. Like, I'm incredibly privileged through a system that's incredibly unfair to many. So, and I recognize that. And I love the idea of like you say, the sort of repetitive, boring shit that no one wants to do is where the growth is.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of the same for anything, right? Like setting up a business, doing the taxes, getting all of the kind of admin stuff done.
Yeah.
It's reps.
Yeah.
If you want to bodybuild, it's reps. If you want to get better at a sport or playing an instrument, it's reps. Like
Yep.
it's all the same thing. And I think we compartmentalize, right? Like we think nothing of a coach, for example, helping an athlete. But there are many, many leaders who are still averse to having a coach or a mentor in business because they feel like, oh, well, that's showing a weakness, or it's crazy. Like we're okay with it over here, not the same over there. Um, this is an absolutely fascinating conversation. I'm loving this. Thank you so much for sharing so much. Um, when you think of everything, was there a moment that's happened where I'm going to rephrase this question using far better English than I started with because it's gone incredibly clunky. When you think back over your career, was there a moment where things didn't go according to plan? And what did you learn?
I mean, the first thing that comes up is like, for me, saying yes to red flag clients out of desperation. And part of that is, I think, just like a new solopreneur growing pain. Like you kind of have to work with more difficult clients early on because your pool's not as big. I've 90% of my clients, though, since day one have been phenomenal. But there have been times when I'm in a discovery call or I see these certain behaviors from a client that make me go, probably shouldn't work with that person, but I'm worried about how I'm going to pay for rent next month. So I take it on. And then a lot of the times when you take on that project, like a week later, something better comes along. You're like, oh shit, if I just held out 1 minute longer. And there have been times where like there was one client I had where I had a really difficult time working with them, so I kind of paid them to go away. There have been times where I've worked with a client who was really tricky and my normal hourly income dropped by like 80% because I underquoted them out of desperation and I knew they were a red flag client. So, um, that's something to start paying attention to early on, I guess, if I'm like to bottle it up into a lesson. What kind of clients do you want to have? Pay attention to the behaviors, the types of questions they ask, and give yourself, I mean, we all have to pay for groceries, and I understand that, but sometimes there's maybe a little bit more leeway than you think. And a lot of the times, if it's a bigger project, saying yes to a red flag client will take you away from time that would be better spent pitching green flag clients or
Mm,
redesigning your portfolio so you're better positioned to get the clients that you want, or refreshing your LinkedIn page, or doing some of all of the above.
mm,
How can we pour that time into, because I feel like sometimes when we work with a client that we know we shouldn't have worked with, we could have gotten two new clients in half the time we spent spinning our wheels and climbing uphill with them, right?
mm,
So that's something that has been kind of like the biggest learning thing for me and something that I watch out for now. And I kind of know how to like ping people away from me. What am I thinking? I'm thinking of like a ping ball machine. I'm like one of the things
right.
I'm like boop, and off goes that ball in the other direction when I see the red flags. But giving yourself, not always when you don't have all of your projects lined up for the next 6 weeks or whatever, not always immediately catastrophizing and being strategic and having some confidence in your ability to find a project for yourself that you want to do. But with all of these things, of course, the foundations need to be in place. I have people who've come to me over the years being like, I'm a freelancer, I can't find work, LinkedIn profile not set up correctly, iPhone photo not clear what they do, no portfolio, not pitching, all of these things. So the bones have to be there, and sometimes this is quite a circuitous answer. It's better to spend your time fixing your bones and going out there and finding some green flag clients than saying yes to the red flag one because you're afraid you're not good enough to find something better for yourself.
mm, 100%. The last red flag client I took on in the pitch, there were multiple agencies pitching. I went in as my agency, and there was a big set of tables. And so they had, I don't know, 10, 15 stakeholders reviewing all of the agencies. That should have been
Right
the
away.
first flag. Then after I did my pitch, one of them got up, took me, like, showed me out, showed me off the premises. And as I was going, I can't remember the exact words they said to me, but it was along the lines of just like make sure you know what you're getting into here. It was friendly. It was a
It's a
friendly
warning.
warning. And it played on my mind for days, and I should have listened to it. And I think the project was originally meant to be something like 3 weeks long. So it was a quick in and out, good budget. It lasted for over 3 months. I lost about 30,000 on it, and it ended with solicitors' letters backwards and forwards. Like
Oh, that's
it
brutal.
was a hideous, hideous time, and they were very, yeah. I'm going to leave it there and
Not say anything
probably
else.
nip that last bit out. But it taught me a lot about listening to my gut and listening out for those signals. I mean, I couldn't have had a clearer warning than someone saying to me, make sure you know what you're getting into here. So
Yeah.
I would love to know, like, for you, when you're having a discovery call with a new client, what are the things that you intuitively listen out for?
Gotcha. Lines of questioning.
Mm,
Like if it feels like they're trying to trap me or trick me, I already know that they're like not aware of, like they're not bought into my vision, my body of work, or like me as a consultant. Um, what are some other things? I mean, I've summed these up in whole lists before. I wish I had one in front of me. That's a big one. People who have this energy of like, it kind of along the same vein of like trying to get you to prove yourself to them.
mm,
Like I've been in situations where I've been a discovery call and then there's like a back and forth 8 email series where they're like, oh, asking you a bunch of questions, talking really deep into the project. Oh, people who want your creative strategy or who want really finite answers about the project before you've signed on together, I think that's a red flag that there's not enough trust there, right? Like a lot of this is about trust. You want to be with somebody who's going to see you as a consultant, not a pixel pusher, and looking for the signs that they really don't have that. And I'm always looking for an enthusiastic yes. I am not an always be closing person. I am an always be looking for enthusiastic consent person. I do not want to start a relationship where the client feels like I owe them something, feels like I have something to prove. I start relationships with clients who are like, fuck yeah, you're the option. You're the only option. You are the person who I want to work with. And even I had a client recently who was like kind of high profile, and they have like a strong creative vision and a high bar of expectation. So that was a little daunting for me. And one of the things that made me like, for sure, no, I wanted to work with them is before I sent over the statement work, I had a personal emergency. And I was like, hey, I've had this personal emergency come up. You're going to get your statement of work with that outlines terms and pricing. So we're not signed on yet, tomorrow instead of today. And they wrote back and they said, I'm sure I want to work with you. Take all the time I need. You are the only option. I'm not talking to anybody else. And immediately I knew, despite the fact that I was a little intimidated by working with this person previously, and I did expect that they would have very high standards for me that I would need to fulfill. And that's daunting in its own way. That was like the most green flag energy somebody could give me.
Right.
People who approach you with that confidence, and that's really what I want from anyone. I'm not in the business of pressuring anybody to give me a yes ever. That is such, you end up in like such a weak power dynamic when you start the relationship then, because you're coming in at the bottom and like you have something to prove, and it's like this desperate energy, and that can interfere with your work and your confidence in your work. And it's just like a hard no for me. Such a hard no. I want to work with people who are like, hell yeah, I know who you are. I see your work. I like your work. Not coming at me with this weird kind of power struggle energy is the only way I can articulate it.
No, I get it. I get what you mean. I once had a client that I loved. He was very well known in a specific sphere. Just trying to think whether
What
he
you
would
could
be
say.
okay with me. I'm going to share it either way, but whether he would be okay with me sharing who he is, I think so. I think he'd be all right. I once had a client who was well known. He was a fitness instructor, but worked with sort of normal people, but also worked with celebrities as well, and had like, he was the one that they went to have like the huge transformation. And I met him, not the first time I met him was not that long before my daughter was born. And it was a brand redesign, a refresh, and a website. And so I was working with him, and he's a great guy. He was really fun. And you'd have these answer phone messages from him, and he'd talk like this, and he'd be like, "How's it going? What's going on?" And then there was obviously, once my daughter was born, there was a period of time where I wasn't working, and I took time off to be with her. And he was completely respectful of that and understood. The day that I came back into the office, I had an answer phone message from him saying, "Adam, congratulations on the birth of your daughter. Now, where's my website?"
So endearing.
I just thought that was wonderful. Like, he's got his priorities right. Like, he's respecting my time off. He's waiting. The very first thing he says is congratulations, then down to business. Like,
he respects your time off and your time on. Ooh, that's another red flag with clients. People who don't seem to respect their own time probably won't respect yours. Like if they want to get into like these circuitous back and forth emails, or they want to have a whole bunch of unnecessary meetings. These sorts of things are like a red flag for me. I'm like, this isn't going to be efficient. It's not going to be good for you. It's not going to be good for me. And I'm going to end up wasting your time. We're going to waste each other's time. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a great checklist to people listening to start with. And I'm sure, like, wherever you're listening to this or watching this now, there's probably the ability to comment. So, like, add your own red flags to this.
Please.
Be mindful of litigation in how you describe who you're talking about for red flags. But, like, I would love to know more to add them in. We talked about, something that you're proud of from a work aspect. What are you most proud of outside of work?
Oh God. Um, I'm less confident outside of work, to be honest with you. People read me as like when I talk about my career, people read me as really confident. When people tell me that, I'm like, that's interesting because I don't know if that's how I identify. Um, uh, Everything I have gotten back up from.
Yeah.
In many ways, I've led a very privileged and charmed life, but I've also been put through the ringer. By life in many ways, in part by my own body and brain. I've had OCD since I was a kid. I've recovered from an eating disorder. I had a very severe substance abuse problem in my teens and 20s, got over that. I stand back up and I reinvent myself so many times. I was in a cult in my mid 20s. A cancer survivor, all of these things. And I get up and I go at it again. And I'm also not afraid to completely reinvent myself in my own life over and over until it looks how I want it to look. Um, and I'm proud of that ultimately. I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, but I am proud of what I have built, given the hurdles I've had to come over to get here.
Mm, I see you. And as a fellow survivor, I'm so glad that you're here, and I'm so glad that you are where you are.
Thank you.
We're coming up on time, so we've only got a few questions left.
Yeah, I can
What
go
would
over.
you? Well, also, me too. I could chat with you for hours and hours and hours. What would you love people listening or watching this to take away from the episode?
My biggest thing is, I'll be circling back to something I said before. You're never going to feel ready. And for whatever it is you want to do next. So do it now. Don't do it later. You don't even know if you have a later. Do it now. That's a big one for me. It was a transformative thing in my transition from writing to design. Somebody said, why not now to me? Specifically, James Martin, who I'm sure you're very much aware of as a designer, said to me, why not now? When I said in 5 years. And I was like, oh, yeah, you know what? Yeah, let's go ahead and do it now, which turned out to be like 18 months later. But do it now. You're not going to feel ready. Um, it's never too late to change the course that you're on. And options for work are broader than you think they are. So start doing, if you're like on a journey to do something independently, or you're doing something independently, but you still feel like you're an employee, I think it's never too early to start doing the job of taking down these walls and constraints we build around ourselves, especially because it will be a forever journey. I'm still on it. For taking down walls around money and time and expectation and work. So all of those things, broad strokes, are like a lot of what I end up saying to people who are trying to propel themselves forward on a new path or who want to change something about their working lives.
Mm. We're at time. We're at the last question. It's the same final question for every guest that comes on the show. Are
Okay.
you, Emily, awaiting approval?
Not anymore. Not anymore. I'm still unpacking like the fake constraints I've put around myself. But not anymore. I've started giving myself permission. So
I love that. I really love that, and I'm really pleased for you. And I hope that I know I know it will, and I hope and wish for you for that to continue and grow and support you in your journey forward.
thank you so much, Adam. You're such a joy to speak to.
Oh, thank you. You've become my favorite guest instantly. um, this is your opportunity. How can people get in contact with you? What would you like to share?
I'm emilycourt.com, and you can find me on LinkedIn and no other social platforms because I like to protect my time and peace. So I'm also a pick one or two marketing strategies and stick with them person. So emilycourt.com, COURT, like basketball court. I think the last name is more common where you are than it is where I am. And yeah, find me on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, I talk freelance business, feminist boogeyman BS, and lots of things about design in the creative industry and personal brand. So all of those things cycle through.
Awesome. Thank you. This has been like a really wonderful, uh, energizing conversation. I know we've touched on some deep topics as we've kind of gone through, but I feel I feel recharged talking to you. I'm smiling. Like, this has been wonderful. And I really appreciate you coming here and sharing your story so openly, so candidly. I think there's a hell of a lot here for people listening and watching to take home with them. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on and for all your super thoughtful questions.
Thanks for tuning in. If you're feeling stuck or want to think out loud about where you're heading, remember that you don't have to figure that all out on your own. I offer a free 15-minute conversation to anyone who wants help figuring out what's in front of them. Whether that leads to us working together or not doesn't matter. What matters is that you have someone in your corner, even if it's just for those 15 minutes. Head to growwithadamjennings.com and book your call. I'd love to hear from you. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the show so that you don't miss the rest of season 3. There is some absolute gold coming your way. So until next time, keep creating, keep questioning, and above all else, keep going.